Hello and welcome to FIDE Online Olympiad 2021. I'm Women Grandmaster Dina Belenkaya, and here with me, Women Grandmaster Keti Tsatsalashvili. Today is yet another day. We have quarterfinals, China versus Russia and India versus United States of America. The matches will be starting right now, and yes, we are excited. We are very, very happy to be back to you here as well. And Keti, how do you feel about today? What are your expectations for this match between Russia and China?
Well, in the semifinals, we have the strongest teams of the Olympiad: China, Russia, India, and USA. So I think we're gonna see a lot of interesting games, maybe also some upsets. Looking forward to see the first match. China versus Russia is the strongest one, I think. And let's take a look now the bracket, how these teams came in here.
Indeed, China beat Poland and Russia dominated over Hungary, and today they will be facing each other. We will also have yet another match later on today between United States of America and India. These are semifinals, and United States of America beat Kazakhstan in quarterfinals, while India was dominating Ukraine. Keti, let us take a look at the format of the event once again.
All right, we have already passed the division stages and now we are at the playoff stage. The time control of the games is 15 minutes plus 5 seconds. But in case of tie breaks, if the teams end in a draw, then we're gonna have additional match. The time control in that match will be 3+2.
That is correct. And if we yet do not know the winner, then we will have an Armageddon game. And that is something very, very exciting. An Armageddon game, the drawing of lots determine who will be facing, who only one board will be playing, and then the captains would choose which player will be there. And as always, it goes in Armageddon. White would get 5 minutes and Black will get 4 minutes, but Black would be pretty happy with the draw as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Greetings to our chat on chess.com, Twitch, YouTube channels, and also FIDE, Twitch and YouTube channels. Right now I see the predictions is going on, so you guys go there and predict who will win the first match and also win some channel points.
Indeed, do not hesitate to participate in our discussion as well. We do see all your messages, and do not hesitate to ask us questions if you may have some.
That's true. That's true.
The games are about to start. We will soon have them, but for now, Keti, who is your favorite in this matchup between Russia and China?
Oh, so hard to predict the result in here. I believe that both teams are represented at their best. China has 2 world champions and top grandmaster Ding Liren. Russia has also world champions and top grandmasters. But you know, Dina, I think the main factor in this too much will be the junior boards.
That's correct. And seems like we already have the pairings for the boards, and I can see that Ding Liren will be playing on the board 1 for China, and he will be facing Daniel Dubov, a very creative player who also has been a segment of Magnus Carlsen himself. And yeah, that is gonna be a very interesting match.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's read out the lineups of each team. I'll go with China. You can do your countryman lineup. So in China, first board, as you mentioned, we have Ding Liren. Second is Yu Yangi. Hao Yufan is the female board. Ju Wenjun is another female board. Yong Xing Bi and Nick Kaiyu. So far, China has more or less similar lineup as yesterday, but I see the junior board, they changed the player, and now we have Wang Xiu, whose rating is 2380, and he will be facing Andrei Asipenko.
Yeah, let us not forget that these ratings are rapid ratings, so they might be a little bit not up to date since lately there haven't been so many rated FIDE rapid tournaments over the board. But either way, as far as for Russia, we already mentioned on the board one we have Daniel Dubov, but we also have Vladislav Artemiev on the board too. As far as for female boards, we have the one of the strongest Russian female players, women players, Alexandra Gurashkina, who is considered to be one of the strongest players of nowadays, active players, women players. We also have Alexandra Kostyanyuk, who has won recently the World Cup with very amazing performance without any tie breaks at all. And as far as for junior boards, we have Andrei Yesipenko, who has recently beat Magnus Carlsen himself. And we have also Polina Shuvalova, who passed 2500 barrier a couple of months ago, and that is indeed a very strong team. You're right, Keti, this is my country and I will be rooting for them, but I will stay as neutral as I can in this commentator studio.
That's right. Let's take a look once again to the top women grandmasters who were participated in this tournament. Most of them are still in the action, and Hoyufan, Alexandra Goreshkina, Conero Hampi, Juvan June, Katerina Lakhno, Alexandra Kostyanyuk, Karika Dronavali, and Polina Shuvalova, together with Lei Tingli, Kazakhstan ladies, Shansaya Abdumanlik and Dinara Sadukasova left yesterday. They knocked out in a fight against USA. So really, we have here stars.
Yes, yesterday the matchup between United States of America and Kazakhstan was indeed very dramatical. There was a tie, in fact. The first match finished in a win for Kazakhstan, and Team Kazakhstan needed only a draw to guarantee them place in the semifinals. Unfortunately, they lost to United States of America in the second match. They lost with a minimal score, 2.5 to 3.5, and then there was a blitz tiebreak, and in that blitz match United States of America managed to beat Kazakhstan 4-2, and there was this little upset from the female junior board since Bibisara Soboyeva lost her game to a very much lower rated opponent, and some might think it was her fault in a way, but in fact Bibisara won the two tie breaks, the two classical games of 15 minutes, and yeah, well, in team events it's never about one player. It's always about the team, the six players, all the six players who are playing. So that was a little bit misfortunate, and I have to admit that in the semifinals that we have right now between those four teams, United States of America, India, China, and Russia, United States right now might be the underdog.
Yeah, there is not a secret. We can take a look at the average ratings, and they are indeed the lower average rated. We have here India, China, and Russia. Those countries are represented by their best players.
Yes, that is true. And seems like lately those countries, China, Russia, and India, have been always fighting for the first places, and this is not the exception for this Olympiad. And Keti, looks like we already have the games.
Perfect. And here we have with white pieces Dingley Ryan against Daniel Dubov.
That is true. Let us see how or what were the first moves of this opening. Knight f3, d5, d4, knight f6. At first, when we see knight f3, we're hoping for red or for the Catalan, but no, this wasn't the case here until a very long time. In fact, it was after move number... Wow. Okay, before we go there, this is a Slav defense. We got into a Slav defense with this knight h4, bishop g6. Now here the idea is that white tries to trade the most active piece of black, and that might be actually a good idea. But look what happens here, Keti. All of a sudden, white plays g3. And I have to admit, I'm a little bit surprised by this move, since it doesn't look pretty natural to me.
The idea of this move might be to get knight on g2 f4 to be still very active, looking forward for d3 square, or just to guard h4 knight in the lines. After knight e4, white will have an option to capture the knight on e4, and h4 knight will be discarded. But also, honestly, it looks a bit weird for me too.
Yes, that is correct. Now that I look at the theory, in fact, you will not believe it, but it is a first line. We have 44 games played in the base with G3, and yeah, nowadays this is chess. Sometimes moves can be not very logical, but if they are played, if this is the theory, then it means that it has been proven correct.
Yeah, we might see in few moves why white played g3.
And here we go with d takes c4, bishop takes c4, very natural thing. Bishop h5, and now things get absolutely not logical at all, because at first we thought that the whole plan of white was to trade this bishop, but look at this bishop right now. Dark black's light squared bishop on h5 is now being traded to the white's bishop, and this makes to me honestly not much of a sense.
Yeah, that's interesting played by. I still don't understand the move g3 after all, to be honest. Maybe we need to take a deeper look with that. It's theoretical move, it's the main line, and seems like there is something behind it. But what happened in the game, Dina? Black just managed to trade light square bishop. White has pushed those pawns and weakened the light squares, and maybe this is Dubov. We might see h5 from him. Oh no, he castles.
He castles, and now the advantage that white gained instead of having taken the bishop is that he has the big center. And we know for sure, starting from our early steps in chess, we know that this is one of the main targets for any player. When you start the game, you want to have the center. In fact, the first move you do is taking the center, and guess what, the second move you do is also taking the center with the pawn. So here white has the center, and normally it would give white advantage. Now we have this c6 and b6, and also the queen on h5. Right, so this position is or might be with a slight advantage for white. I suggest we continue moving on and see what is happening on the other boards.
Yeah, let's do that, and we can come back later on in this game.
Here we have a game of the second board in the open section, Vladislav Artemiev facing Yu Yangi, and this position looks pretty interesting. Keti, would you like to guess the opening?
I think it's been on type of position, color reversed. Can be something like started from knight f3 ready, knight f3 d5 c4 d4. I think that's my guess.
Yes, it's very close. There was this knight f3, again, ready kind of opening, d5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2. We have the perfect ready here, in fact. And then it transposed to that kind of, as we call, Benko kind of positions with this c4 and d4. And now the advantage for white is that they have this diagonal, but the disadvantage or the advantage for black is that they have a better center with this d4 pawn.
Yes.
And after knight takes d7, queen takes d7, f4 is a very interesting move, now taking some part of the center, since white should have at least some control over here. d3 also controlling yet another central square. We have b6, knight d2, bishop b7, knight f3, a5, a3, h6, queen e2, rook a d8, bishop d2, bishop c5 is the current position on the board. And I am wondering, is this bishop on c5 called a bishop or a pawn?
This bishop, Dina, is not that good looking. Black really wishes here to have a knight That's the spot for the knight. But it also has some function here. For a moment, it stops b4. Just imagine if white pushes b4 and then b5. That's going to be a very bad scenario on the queen side. Rook will be rook a7 will be the next move, knight e5 and so on. So this bishop here is a bad bishop, bad looking bishop, but with a good heart and stopping b4 coming forward. So yeah, we all wish this bishop to be knight, or the bishop will be to be somewhere else. But you're right. In the future, black has to take care of this bishop, has to improve the bishop.
Yeah, that is correct. I like your way of seeing it regarding his heart. It's true that we shouldn't underestimate the function of this bishop, because sometimes it holds the whole position simply because it holds the d4 pawn, and the d4 pawn holds the whole position. Yeah. So, okay, let us keep this bishop quiet for now. Let us not disturb him more and move on to the women's boards.
All right, here we have Hou Yifan and Alexandra Goryachkina. Hou Yifan just fully managed to be here and to play, especially in the final stage. And she is supporting the team, and this is so nice to see her back in chess, back in the team. And I'm sure the also the team members, Team China, also appreciates that from her. What about this position, Dina? What do you think, who stands better?
Yes, that is a very interesting position, because in a way it is symmetrical. So one would say, symmetrical position, soon to be a draw. But here we go. No, it is not the same. Look at the a5 pawn. It has advanced pretty far away, so it grabs some space advantage. And also the bishop on f4 looks pretty nice, although it will be traded to the bishop on g5. To evaluate this position better, let us now first take a look how it all started. So we had this kind of Ruy Lopez, very well-known Ruy Lopez to us. And here knight to e4 is a very, very old Berlin variation of Ruy Lopez. Knight takes e5, bishop e7. Okay, and here is the move that is a first line still, bishop f1. We have knight takes e5, rook takes e5, short castle d4, bishop f6. Still a first line. I'm moving forward. Rook e1, rook e8, c3. Again, first line. I cannot surprise you, Keti. Rook e1.
Oh, yeah, and I have seen this. I think Hou Yifan was playing at women's speed this line. That's why I've seen it earlier. That's why I'm quiet.
Oh, that is actually that actually makes a lot of sense. Now, 98. I will just tell you when it's not going to be the first line for the first time. And here we go. We have 23 games with bishop f4, 6 games with knight d2, and only 2 games with a4. And this is the first time that, let's say, Hou Yifan might have surprised your opponent with this move.
Yeah, one thing that I can add here, Dina, is that back then when I saw 98 was a bit artificial for me to bring this knight on e8. That's not the active square. And I was like, why not knight a5 or somewhere else? But the idea is to push e5, d5 to open the light square bishop, and then knight to take back. And that's how I understood that knight from f5 closes the light square bishop. So for the moment, knight goes backwards, opens the bishop, and then knight can come in the center. As the position is not very dynamic, black has this chance to spend some time for good development.
Yes, there is a very good point indeed. So we had this knight e8 that now makes a lot of sense to us. a4, d5, a5, knight d6, bishop f4, bishop f5, knight d2, bishop g5, queen e3, h6, a6. So this is the moment where we first had a look at this position. It was white to move, and now we have this a6. I have to admit that a6 is a very typical move when you try to, from one side, take more space, but from the other side, you also want to have a better endgame in the end, because this type of pawns can actually be a future passed pawn or reserve passed pawn, to be known in some other circles. So we have b6, rook e1, bishop takes f4, queen takes f4, and queen g5 is the current position on the board. Keti, now that we have looked at the openings, do you have a preference here for one of the sides?
I think black is doing just fine. With black pieces, she managed to equalize the position. There is not any weakness in black's position. White is very active. And Dina, this game somehow reminds me the yesterday's match, Poland versus China, where Jan-Krzysztof Duda pushed a6 against Ding Liren. And then the events turned in a completely different way. But in that position, Ding Liren was passive, but he was holding it. And also he was creating some threats. So this setup also reminds me that game. And just imagine if queens are off the board and rooks are off the board as well, then bishop c8 makes sense. That attacks the pawn, and that knight can once again go back on e8. Black can push c6 to guard d5, and knight c7 will create a threat on e6 pawn. So I think black is just fine here, and this is the minimum achievement you can do when you're playing against very strong opponent with black pieces. You cannot really ask for an advantage, right? If the opponent plays quite precise.
That is actually a very good reflection to that game. I agree. I had this feeling. Haven't we seen this already before yesterday or in the top division? Yeah, and that is correct. There was indeed that game between Jan-Krzysztof Duda and remind me, what was the opponent?
Ding Liren.
Oh, yeah, Ding Liren. Yeah, right. I suppose these two players might have seen the game as well. We'll find out more about it later. Let us move on to the second women's board. We have Alexandra Kostyuk here with white pieces facing Zhu Wenjun. Alexandra Kostyuk has just won the World Cup, and Zhu Wenjun is the reigning world champion. So that is an interesting matchup indeed.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I think this position is from sort of Catalan when black also goes with g6. And look at this structure. White is not having the best pawn structure, right? A and C pawn are not connected, and that's not the best scenario. I'd really wish this that pawn to be on B file or on D file, but it's there. But somehow White's all the pieces are so active, and also this C5 pawn gets so much of the space. So I think that White is here more active.
Yes, that is actually a good point. Let us briefly see what were the moves. Indeed, Keti, you were right. That was this Catalan with both bishops on fianchetto, both bishops fianchetto. And here we have short castle, knight f6, d4, and then c4, and then black took on c4, giving white the center. And now let us see, and then counterattacking the center. And eventually we got this pawn on c5 starting from the move 8, and it stays there until the moment we saw. Okay, here we go. Indeed, white is very, very active throughout the whole way. Now we have the trade of the light squared bishops. One would think that it might actually weaken the white's king, but apparently there is not so many pieces for black to use those weaknesses, so it doesn't make them weaknesses. And queen c6, bishop takes g7. This is the current position. Now what we see as an achievement is that white also traded the bishops that would protect the black's king, and queen on c6. Computer gives equality to this position, but we have some human factors to assess it. As Keti said, we have this pawn on c5 that might be a weakness, but might be a strength. I guess here everything will depend on who will enter to the 7th rank first.
Yeah. Also, Dina, the time sometimes tells us a little bit more than itself. The physician seems like to me that Black was worried of White's very active play, and Black was spending more time to find the most correct way to avoid any complications, and that's why here we have 4 minutes difference, and it's already in the end game, and in the end game it is luxury to have a time and to find a proper plan and to find the way how to continue the play.
Yes, that is true. And now, after the changes in the pawn structure, after b takes c6, I actually clearly prefer white here, because not only white's rook has the open file, but also the c6 becomes a weakness. Now knight attacks it, and black's rooks are very, very passive. One of them is protecting the c6 pawn, and the other one is being blocked by by her colleague. And that is why black tries to play f6 with the idea to play e5 and kick out this knight. Rook a b1. Look at the rooks of Alexander Kostyuk. They both control the only open files, so there must be an advantage for white. But here we go, rook c7, f4, stopping the e5, and now it is black to move.
Mm-hmm.
King f7.
F7, yeah, she's trying to centralize. I think she also wants to trade a pair of knight here, just 96 maybe, and rook endgame might be safer. As this knight on d4 creates so much danger. Another plan can be e5, just to push that and then to bring the pieces in the center. But after e5, I would be really worried about d6 square. Because look at these rooks, b1 and d1. They are so ready to enter any place which are open to get.
Yes, I would actually once again insist on the human aspect of this position. We have so many achievements for white that we clearly see the advantage for white. Computer does not agree. I guess once again, we will see later on what will be the outcome. We still have two more boards that we haven't seen. These are the junior boards. We have Wang Shixu, who is here with white pieces facing Andrei Yusupenko. As much as a year ago, China doesn't have a rating favorite on the open junior board. That might be their weakness. Keti, you already mentioned it in the early beginning. Now let us see what brings us this position.
Yeah, the thing is that the opponent teams, they have two strong junior players. As Russia and India, I can't recall USA junior player, but when it comes with the Russia and India, and they have already well-known grandmasters, very experienced grandmasters who are playing top tournaments. That's why it's just hard for China to catch up on this board, right? But on the other hand, he has quite strong rating and he's representing one of the strongest chess countries, so the team believes in him and they trust him. That's why he is now playing. It's just we just don't have enough information about him.
Yeah, what is interesting is that we do not see any title for Chinese junior. Keti, if you have a moment later on, do not hesitate to update us on the chess results if we actually have the title of the Chinese player. And what I can add is that even United States junior board is a grandmaster. I recall now it is Lianka Avander, and he is a grandmaster. So,
oh, Dina, remember when I told you that we have 92 title players, 92 players overall in the finals, and out of that 91 is title players. Only one player was not titled, and that's him. He's playing crowd with white pieces against Andrei Yusupenko.
Wow. So Wang Shixu is the only player who is not titled, and he's facing Andrei. And what is interesting is that he is doing perfectly fine for now. Let us have a look how it all started. We had this kind of Nimzo. No, it's not Nimzo. It's Queen's Gambit. we had this Queen's Gambit declined, and we will see where it went. There were some pawn breaks, everything traded in the center, and seems like
Oh,
white.
Dina, I have to interrupt you. And this is just news about Chinese player. Wang Xu, in fact, is an international master, and he is just waiting the council to review his title, which will happen probably next board meeting of FIDE. And yeah, his title is status is open, which means that later, whenever the council will make a board meeting, they will for sure approve his title. So he's title player as well.
Okay, he's
But not officially.
soon to be an international master, already achieved it. And yes, he's doing great once again. We have seen the moves order so far, and looks like Black didn't Black didn't have anything. And previously I said that white didn't get any advantage, but Wang is with white pieces, so he didn't necessarily need to get the advantage. He needed to hold because he is so to be the weaker board, and he needs to hold this board, and he does it once again perfectly well. I assume there is going to be a draw very soon here in this game. Keti, do you agree?
I agree with that. It seems like white has no weakness here. White has to play just very basic moves, not to create any weakness, and just still the hold the position. And I think, Dina, this can be the second draw in the match, as we can see that the first board was already ended, and the first board was also quite peaceful between Ding Liren and Daniel Dubov. That's a bit surprising for me, because here with white pieces we have Ding Liren, who is a human version of the strong engine, and we have Daniel Dubov, a very exciting player who creates so much things on the board.
Yes, that is correct. We can now see the moves that were going in this game, that happened in this game. At first, we would say that white gained some advantage with such a strong king in the center, and we know now for sure that king is the strongest piece in the center. In the sorry, white is the strongest piece in the end game, and he wants to go to the center. So this is what white did here, but surprisingly didn't give any chances to have the advantage. And after f4, we had some moves here as well. I'm updating you on these ones, and seems like everything just traded, and we had this 3 times repetition. Already a result, a draw, as Keti mentioned. The game between Wang and Yesipenko might be the second draw, and I suggest we now have a look at the last game that we haven't yet touched. It is Shuvalova Polina here with white pieces versus Women International Master Ning Kayu.
Yeah, this position is the most complicated so far what we have seen. I'm just counting roughly, and I see that the material is equal, but white has perf bishop and the position is quite open. So I think that's white who's trying to push more.
Yes, let us prove that with the opening. We had e4, c5, knight f3, d6. The open Sicilian, so known to be the neither variation, very well known. g3 is actually a rare in a way. Rare, I say rare. It is
yeah, it is
rare.
it is in the theory they play this move, and it sort of like avoids the main lines of the knight, which is very sharp, and with just g3, just white develops the bishop and delays the attack on the king side. But also it sort of looks like dragon lines to me when white goes with g3.
Yes, it might be something like dragon, if you mean dragon for white or dragon for black.
Dragon for black if black goes with g6 and g7,
yeah.
bishop g7. Yeah,
In this case,
that's how I play with black against g3.
Yeah. That would make some sense indeed. Now we have e5 and knight b3, bishop e7, bishop g5. Interesting idea, bishop g5. You actually do want to trade your bishop against this knight in order to take the control over the d5 square, which is the key square in any Sicilian, but especially in the neither when it is kind of weak and the d6 pawn is a backward pawn. Now f4. Wow, the position gets pretty sharp here. Look at white's king. It is open in the center. We had a short castle, queen d2, and d5 pawn break. Wow, this game is very complex. We might not be willing to stop right now at every detail. We'll just see where it brings us. And if we have time, we'll get back to this analysis later on. Queen c8, short castle, rook d8, queen f2, a5. A normal idea to push the knight on b3. Now rook a d1, a4, rook takes d8, queen takes d8, knight d2, knight c6, knight takes e4, bishop a2. Wow, everything is happening so fast here. h4, our favorite move, Keti, the move that we sometimes do not understand. Here I doubt it was a misclick from Polina, unlike yesterday. h4, h6, queen a3, queen a5, rook d1, rook d8, king h2, queen b5, queen c3, rook d7, rook d2, rook d8, bishop e4, queen h5, bishop f3, queen f5. I'm going really quickly for this stuff. g5, h takes g5, h takes g5, bishop e3, knight e5, and this is the position that we have right now. Oh boy, hard to evaluate, Keti. Only 10 seconds for Polina.
Yeah, I'm afraid that Chinese junior player is just pushing too much. She already opened up the H file, and somehow Black's pieces got so active on the king side. And what is the most important, why she did this? Maybe it's not the most accurate way to push G5 and to open up it's all king, but the thing is she's playing on time. The opponent has 10 seconds, and why not to complicate the situation?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now we can see that white has this d6 pawn, which could be very dangerous, but white's king at the same time is really, really open, although we have two bishops that should protect this king, and black king is also weak. But so much tactic here. We have rook coming to c2, queen is on f5 trading the c2. This is an interesting game, and now that we look at it with only seconds on the clock for Polina, I can update you that we only have the results in Artemiev and Hu and Yu Yang game, and we also have How You Find and Gerashkina. All the three games finished in a draw. We might have yet another draw from Yesipenko. It means that the key boards would be for us Kostyanyuk and Shuvalova.
Yeah, this is interesting how close this match is. And to me, this match is very, very strong. Like both can be also already in the finals, right? It looks like a finals to me. It's just the bracket they got themselves in the same side of the bracket, and they are playing in the semifinal. But this very much looks to me like the final match.
Yes, indeed. And look what is happening, how all of a sudden, the revelation board dropped so down. Look at the position. There might be a mate in 4 after queen h2, king f. Oh no, this is mate.
Oh, bishop
White
comes.
king
Oh no,
is
there's
getting
no
mated.
save.
Polina loses her game, and now Alexander Kostyanyuk needs to win if Team Russia wants to save this match. But looks like Alexandra is winning this game.
Yeah, this should not be very hard for her. Knight f6, e7, e8, queen. That can be a plan, but what she's doing, she's bringing the king closer, like king now f5, king f6, push e7, and Dina, I think this is winning position for white.
Yeah, now that I look at it, I actually recognize that white has an extra free knight, and I guess the result in this game is pretty much evident. Alexandra will win this game. So the last game that is
I think there is knight f6 or knight f8 checkmate patterns there.
Yeah, I bet there are millions of ways of winning with the extra knight for the current.
Oh yeah, there is. Okay, I should be careful with that.
Yeah, for the stalemate. Yeah. Let us take a look at the last game that will decide the result. It is Andrei Yasipenko versus Wang Shixu. And look at the evaluation bar. It gives a slight advantage to black now in the end game that we thought what was completely equal.
Yeah, the thing is that knight controls king to get forward. I like g5 now. Black wants to trade the piece pawns, and maybe black's next move is f4. There
That
will
is
be f4
correct.
breakthrough. Yeah,
Wow,
somehow black
this is.
managed to activate pieces better than white, and even though that there are not enough pieces and the pawns on the board, the activity is key factor in chess.
Wow, this must be an exemplary play from Andrei Yasipenko. I'm really curious to see later on how he managed to
I think
overplay his opponent.
I think g4 now makes sense because after g4, king is not in the square as we call it. Knight has to come back and guard it, and knight and against knight and a pawn, that should not be good fight for white. And what is very important here and what is decisive, b5 pawns still exists on the board, so that's how black is going to win the game.
Yes, very well spotted by Keti. G4 move indeed is played on the board. We have now king c4. The second pawn is going to be a pass pawn of black. Only 2 pawns left, not so many, but it is enough to win since white would need to sacrifice the knight against 2 pawns, and they're so far away from each other that it doesn't seem any possible at all. Seems like it
Yeah.
is just a matter of time now that Andrei will win his game, and this will grant Russia the win in the match.
Yeah, Dina, that's I think white is a bit hopeless here as in the case like if white sacrificed the knight for b pawn, then g4 pawn is untouchable. You can't bring your king on f4 and capture the knight because then black will push the g3 pawn. So this is quite heavy position for white, and only miracle or fork can save the white's position. But what is very interesting, Dina, if Kostyuk managed to win that game against you and June, that's going to be tie, and this game will be important, which we actually predicted from the starting, that the most important in this match is the junior boards, like the most
Yes.
decisive games are happening there.
That was a very good prediction. Although I have to admit that looking at the second women's board, I see unlike in other like okay, not unlike another. I see that in the matchup between Jun and Kostanuk, the rating favorite is Jun because Jun is now is in 26 club and she is higher rated. Although, yeah, that might be very big psychological advantage for Kostyuk to be winning her game, very first game against the rating favorite. And we already have the result. Kostyuk did convert her extra piece. She won. So once again, the game that we see right now on the screens between Andrei Yosipenko and Wang Shixu is the last game and is the key game for the outcome of this match.
Yeah, that is true. Asipianko, all the eyes is now at his board, and team members are rooting for him, and everybody wants him to win this game, to play safety, because there is knight. Knight is tricky piece, but he's well experienced grandmaster, and he knows. I think his chess age is more than his real age. He is playing so much of the top tournaments, and that he's actually older than his real age.
Yeah,
If
that
that makes
exactly.
any sense,
Yeah,
like
that makes perfect sense to me. Yes, he has such a big experience in chess and such a big knowledge. He's extremely hardworking, and yes, he's still a junior. Well, actually, that everything mentioned above by you is proven by the board that he's sitting. He plays in the junior board, although he's right now a top grandmaster worldwide, top world's grandmaster in the adult section.
Yeah, I remember him from the tournament that was in World Rapid Blitzen, World Championship Blitzen Rapids in Saudi Arabia, when he beat Sergey Andrekin with a beautiful queen sacrifice. It was in Sicilian defense, and he sacrificed the queen on b3. And back then, I think he was 15 years old. He was very, very young, and I was really impressed. I was doing the commentary back then, and the way how he outplayed Sergey and then sacrificed the queen was just incredible. And I was always, yeah, thinking that he would be like top elite grandmasters. And to be honest, I have seen him for many years at the chess world, that I think he's older than Junior. This is how I feel, as he's playing a lot of very important tournaments.
Indeed, Andrei Sipenko is extremely talented and hardworking, has proven his name already a long time ago. He might be the future challenger for the world crown one day, who knows? But as far as for now, Russia wins versus China with a minimal score 3.5 and 2.5, and that means that in approximately 15 minutes we will be having the second match. China will have to score back, but as far as for now, let us take a quick break and get back to you with the analysis right before the second match will start. and welcome back to FIDE Online Olympiad 2021, powered by chess.com. Here we are, Women Grandmaster Dina Belenkaya and Women Grandmaster Keti Tsatsalashvili, and we had just witnessed the very first round in the matchup between China and Russia won with a minimal score 3.5 to 2.5. Now we are ready to welcome the second match. China needs to win. Keti, do you think their chances to win are high?
Oh, well, they have to try their best. And the chances are, of course, there, as this is Team China and they have top grandmasters in the lineups. Dina, there are some changes in both teams. And we can notice that the junior board they changed and they brought international master Xu Zhihang. The rest of the Chinese team is the same. And there is also the changes in Russian team, Dina.
Yeah, that is correct. We do see a change on the junior women's board. We have Leah Grifulina facing Ninka Yu instead of Polina Shuvalova. Probably because Polina Shuvalova lost her game. That would be pretty logical. And seems like we already have the moves. So let us dive directly into the action. We have here on the screens the game between Daniel Duov and Ding Liren.
We have another Catalan defense. In this case, seems like we have pretty much the standard Catalan defense where Black started with bishop b4. We have been talked about that this bishop is calling for bishop d2, which is not the square for the bishop, and White needs to lose some time to get this bishop backwards and or front on f4, and then to develop the knight on d2. And that's what both sides are doing. They are doing just a normal setup for Catalan defense.
That is correct. And here after b6, we do see the White's bishop going to f4. Now we know that its ideal square would be b2, but in f4 it would be a one move, and White decided not to lose any tempi. Here we have bishop a6 attacking the c4 pawn and queen d3 protecting this pawn. This is the current position after rook c8. Now it's White to move.
Yeah, this queen d3 looks a bit dubious for us, because it just steps on the pin, and the bishop on a6 just pins, and White did that voluntarily. But in fact, White's idea now is to push e4 and ask Black to make a decision to trade any pawns, and the queen from d3 will guard c4 pawn. Is that still a theory, Dina?
Yes, that is a good question. Let us take a look. Seems like queen d3 is the first line. We have 14 games with this move. Also, queen c2 was possible with 13 games. Now queen d3 happened. Rook c8 main line. Now rook a c1 is also the move that we have right now on the screens. And here it seems like this position was already played before. We have 3 games with knight h5. Also c5, knight e8, and bishop b7 are the possible moves here for Black that have been played. One of them I predict will happen on the board very soon.
Yeah.
What is interesting about this position is that the evaluation is equal, apparently. But look at the time, Keti. Ding Liren has already spent 1.5 minutes, and it seems like he was not very much expecting this position. Otherwise, he would probably blitz all the moves out like this.
Yeah, when the opponent plays a Catalan defense, you always have to choose between the standard setup or between d takes c4. This is 2 lines that you are choosing, and maybe Ding Liren just spend some time and invest this time to plan which setup he needs in this game, and that is the reason, in my opinion, that he spent. It's not too much of the time. It's just about 2-3 minutes, and he was just choosing between these two main continuation for Black.
Yes, that would also make sense. All right, let us then leave these players for now and jump to the second board. We do not have any changes here. As well as in the first match, we have Yu Yangyi, Grandmaster from China, facing with white pieces. Now, Vladislav Artemiev with black pieces. We have here a Queen's Gambit declined, a very well-known position. Let us briefly see the moves. Queen c3, knight bt7, bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, bishop e7, e3, short castle. This is the current position, a well-known position, but we don't know the reason why Yu Yangyi is taking so much time. He's already 4 minutes down compared to his opponent. And I assume this is a very big theory. Oh yeah, more than 10,000 games here in the base. Keti, do you have any experience in this one?
Yes, this is the main line of Queen's Gambit declined, and I think this line is as old as chess, because this is the main thing that you're learning when you start to play d4. And here the thing is, we might get into Carlsbad structure very likely after c takes d5. Pawn will take d5. And here, what is very important, black is trying to trade dark square bishop to just simplify the position, to trade more pieces, and seems like the end game is quite comfortable for black. There are several plans here for white as well. White now delays the king side development, because in some lines there is, after bishop d3, there is some moves like d takes c4, and that's why white here just played rook c1 and waiting for black, because black has different options as well. The main line here is b6 to develop the bishop, and then to try to get the knight on e4, and another line is also knight h5 or knight e4. That directly goes and plays against the h4 bishop.
All right, very interesting so far. Yeah. And now Vladislav is thinking deeper a little bit than before, maybe for the first time. And he has just played c5, pawn break, trying to trade all the pawns here in the center, looking for some kind of equality. Seems like still a known position that has been played before.
Yeah, here white can play c takes c5, pawn takes c5, and bishop d3.
And that would lead us to the isolated pawn structure, which would be also pretty interesting for white.
For everyone, because in isolated pawn, so many things might happen. And the thing is that white has more comfortable play here, like castle on knight e5 to start the king side attack. If black close the center with c4, the bishop will come on b1, and white will be ready to play queen c2 and put up this very strong battery on the king side to attack the king side. There are also some crazy moves like g4, Dina, can be that too.
Wow.
To straightforward attack the king with g5 ideas. And if black goes with passive setup here, b6, bishop b7, that allows white a lot of good lines like knight e5, f4, castle, rook f3, rook g3. So I am a bit surprised here by Artemiev that he pushed c5, but perhaps he has something in his mind.
Yeah, and we have already the move in the game that was d takes c5, now avoiding all those kind of isolated pawn structures for white, but we might still see the isolated pawn. Oh no, actually that is still possible. That is still possible, isolated pawn. You know, Keti, I wanted to add that normally in those types of positions with isolated pawn for black, when we have the knight on d7, it is in a way misplaced because it blocks the bishop, and it should be on c6 normally, this knight. So I would say that with the isolated pawn and the knight on d7, white would be better here. But once again, we will see what happens later on. I suggest we continue moving on. We have still 4 more games that we haven't seen. We have Russian women. We have women boards. We have Alexandra Gerachkina. This is interesting. Once again, facing Hou Yifan. Alexandra Gerachkina is unofficially said by many to be the strongest active player nowadays for women's section, and Hu Yifan is also the strongest player, but less active. I mean, the most rated player, the highest rated player is still Judith Polgar, but she's not active anymore. Hu Yifan is semi-active. So I say this matchup is pretty principled for both of the players.
Yeah, it's quite tough for both of the players. They both want to, prove that they are the best now, and this can be very personal, as those ladies are fighting for that title. What happened in the first match? There was a draw. That's actually also quite logical a result, as they are not trying to make any complications in the line, and they are choosing quite standard lines. And for instance, now we have this Carlsbad structure. I think we had here once again the Queen's Gambit declined, and
yeah, that is very much correct. With this A6 move that became very popular nowadays, recently, quite weird move, but gaining so much popularity once again. And the
yeah,
idea
and
is to
it's
get
Dina. This is how Hu Yifan plays. Like, she is still updated with all this new theory. Like,
yeah.
see,
Yeah,
she's
that is a
updated.
very
She's
good
prepared for this tournament.
that is a very good point. With all the occupations she has nowadays with your work as a professor in the university, she still finds time to be up to date on the chess openings as well, and that is indeed fascinating.
Yeah, and what's also very interesting, at her level, she knows so many lines. She has so much of the understanding of chess. Like, even just one sentence from the coach can be enough for her to understand completely why this small detail A6 on move 3 is important. So maybe she did not really spend an hours to analyzing it, but she got that from the coach, and she got it just immediately because she has experience to play this opening, and it makes sense for her, and she understands why A6 is important here.
Yeah, that is correct. We might add that normally this is not the thing that we suggest to play to beginners, because you shouldn't be moving your pawns from the side so early. Yeah, first move you take the center, second move you take the center, and then you start thinking about your pieces. Then you think about your king, but not about your A or H pawns. But here we go. There is some kind of advantage in this move. For black, it's that you take under control the b5 square, and you might actually get a better version of some well-known lines. And I guess this is what is the case here. So far, we have this position after bishop f4. Now, bishop f4 is a critical moment, I would say, because it's just a trade and we would get ourselves to a very different pawn structure. Keti, I have to admit, I have no idea how to evaluate this one.
I think white is playing on the momentum right now. F5 is a threat. The king is still not castled, so black knight has to move on. G6 makes king side even more weakened. So I think knight b6 here is the move. Knight f8 will stop castling for a long time. So after knight b6, very possible there is some tactics here, like, or something like f5 with idea next to play either queen e2 or castle. And I think the g4 is something that black is worried here. G4, 95, g5, f6. And even though those pawns are doubled, they are strong pawns.
Yeah,
F2 keeps the king safe. F5 attacks the king. I think that's the best teamwork here for the double pawns.
absolutely sounds like you and me, these two double pawns.
That's a good example.
One thing that I would add is that this d4 pawn is also weak, but there is no one to attack it, and that is also in a favor of white.
Of white, yeah. Yeah. And here what's very important, this pawn f4, f5 just gets so much space, and black's pieces are very passive. So from this point, we might get into the very dynamic position where white has advantage.
Yeah, and here black decides indeed not to capture the bishop for the reasons that we have mentioned above, and plays queen c7. Queen c7 now attacks the pawn. We have queen d2, once again insisting on that kind of doubling pawns in order to smash everything. On the king's side, we have short castle, rook e8, rook ac1, bishop f4. Finally, black goes for it. E takes f4, knight e4, knight takes e4, pawn takes e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e2, and indeed, Keti, you said it, the position gets a little bit more dynamical, and I'm interested to know whose favor is that too.
Yeah, that means actually black prepared something. That's why she captured this f4, and now she brought this bishop a2. But I'm really afraid the king on g8 is just it's just its own. And how about queen c2 or knight g5? Or that will be crazy to sacrifice the bishop, right?
I think you would like to sacrifice the bishop if the knight
Yeah, I
was
thought the
not...
queen was on d1 for a moment.
Yeah, no. Yeah, even if the queen was on d1, I'm afraid it wouldn't work because there is this knight that would come to f8 or f6, attacking. So you're like that typical sacrifice that we see so many times with the queen coming and checkmating wouldn't work because there are too many defenders.
Yeah.
But the good point about it is that it is everywhere in the air.
Yeah, the thing is that if white managed to guard d4 bishop, then is also d5 very unpleasant move. White can also somehow try to trap the bishop with queen d3 b3 or queen c2 b3. The move which saves black is knight f6. This move guards h7 and also attacks the bishop at the same time. But Dina, what do you think something about bishop c2 now? We want to play b3. So bishop has to go back on d5 or e6. And now we can try to play knight d5.
Yeah, that wasn't played already. We have a move.
Really?
It was rook fe1. Your idea was indeed interesting. Yes, could be very much considered. Unfortunately, it wasn't played. White have just moved with their rook on e1, rook fe1. Also makes sense. The only open file, and white decides to take it. Pretty much logical here. Okay, so this is the position
black is
that we
thinking,
have.
right?
Yeah, black is thinking. This is the position that we have right now. Black to move. The conclusion is that white has doubled pawns and also isolated pawn. And let's be honest, white's pawn structure is pretty weak, but the pieces are active. There is an outpost on e5 for the knights, in a way outpost, because of course there is f6 and so on and so forth.
Yeah. The thing is, black has now knight f6. She's not playing that very fast. And rook e1, on the other hand, treats the pair of rook, and I think that's in favor of black, because the pawn structure in the endgame is more visible and they are weakened. And what's the white's idea now? Like, why she include rook e1?
Yes, rook e1, once again, I would say is a necessary move, a must move to play, just because, well, first of all, it's the simple strategy. There is an open file, you need to put the rook there. But secondly, Gorachkina is a very positional player, is a very solid player, and she follows those simple strategical rules. So I would, in a way, I would be surprised if Gorachkina hasn't played rook e1 in such kind of positions.
Oh yeah, that's very true, Dina. That's what I also think, how she plays, and she saves a lot of time and a lot of energy. Like, she just follows very basic rules, which makes sense at the position, which is very logical, and she saves time with that. She's not calculating every move every time. Just whenever it is needed to calculate, she's of course spending some time. But most like this, rook e1, this looks very logical. This is just basic rule to fight for the open file, and she goes with that. And this is such an easy way to play, but somehow it's also can be hard, right, to take easy sometimes and just play simple moves.
Sometimes you just simply do not believe that the answer or the correct move is so easy, and then the first thing that comes to your mind, you really want to question it because you don't believe how come chess might be so easy. But especially when it comes to Gorachkina, chess is very easy.
Yeah, for her, yes. Dina, before the things get more, shaky, can we come back at the point when Black played a6? There was a comment why a6, and maybe we can just explain why a6 at move 3, as this is just against all the rules we have learned in chess. So in many lines, when the knight is on c3, Black usually captures the pawn on c4. And white can capture this knight pawn back with the bishop, and then Black is ready to push b5 and to develop bishop on one move, bishop b7, and then to push c5. So in many lines, this can transpose to Slav defense, and either it guards the pawn and Black has an extra pawn in the center, or it can be also, if white managed to get this pawn back, then it will go to Miran type of position in Slav, and Black can push b5, develop the bishop in one move, and then to push c5, and Black has very sharp play there. And with Black pieces, when you're playing with Black and you place with against very solid player, it's very hard to find any advantage in any of the line. And a6 is kind of move that, you're ready. If your opponent allows you, you can get in the sharp position. If your that's why white here captured d5. So white is not allowing Black to capture d5.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
white just avoids this move. And in these lines, Dina, in Carlsbad structure, we do know that white's main idea here is to start the pawn attack, minor pawn attack on queenside b4, a4, and in that case, Black has to include a6. Always has to include a6 to get rid of this pawn, open up the a file. So it makes sense for Black to play this move a6 at the move 3, because it is useful in Queen's Gambit decline and it's useful for Slav defense.
Yeah, that makes actually perfect sense after everything that you explained. So in a way, with a6, Black provokes or forces white to go to the Carlsbad structure, where Black will already have a tempo up because a6 in either way is a useful move in this kind of structure.
Yes, and this is very, very deep details, Dina, but there is also some situations like Black is delayed knight f6 move, because if you play knight f6, that allows bishop to come on g5, then white has a3, bishop d3, knight e2, and very, very sharp position. So in Queen's standard gambits, Black starts with bishop e7 development. So yeah. Oh, actually, we can make, if we have some time for that, like from the beginning, d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, and yeah, Black here goes. The main line is bishop e7, just to avoid bishop g5 move, and Black is giving this tempo white. And yeah, after this, knight f6, and if you play now bishop g5, that's okay because I can castle. And when white plays e3, that's not dangerous because knight has already developed on f3, and knight will not go back on g1 and e2. So there's not this attack with f3 and e4 in the center, which is very powerful. And myself, I was so scared when I was kid of that. Like when my opponent was playing already f3, I was thinking that I had already losing position, which is not true, of course, but it's quite unpleasant. So because of these nuances, maybe it looks too much right now, what we just explained, but that's the theory of Queen's Gambit declined. And those players are looking for very small nuances too. And that's how they are building up the advantage, right?
Yeah, this is in fact a very, very well explanation indeed, because the very basic ideas are explained in very simple words. And it is, yeah, I agree with everything you mentioned before. And moreover, I even find something very useful for myself. So thanks for this deep analysis.
No problem.
And now I suggest we go to the women's board. We have still 3 more games that we haven't covered. We have, yeah, let's go to Kostyuk and Juvenjun. This is interesting as well.
Yeah. Okay, who
here.
stands better here, Dina?
Yeah, that is a question I was thinking of as well. Seems like it is an endgame. Oh, look at the evaluation bar after queen d4. It is not happy at all. Queen d4 forces the queen trade, and now giving away this pawn. Traded for, I mean, I suppose knight
With
takes.
knight even, yeah.
But now we have this and bishop c6. Seems like an equality. We should not forget that Team Russia is happy with the draw in this match. So the strategy might be simply to hold on all the boards and not to lose for any of the Russian players. Queen
Yeah,
d4,
that's true.
knight takes d4. And now a computer says that after bishop takes b7, knight takes e2, king somewhere like, let's put it to g2. White has a small advantage here. Could be because of the space advantage and also of the fact that White's king might be closer to the center and to the opponent's camp. Let us see how it all started. We have this Catalan once again, Keti. For all the Catalan lovers, I think we had 10 times more Catalan than London, for instance. That is so popular nowadays in the
Yeah, London
online
is
chats.
more like Blitz online opening because it's fast. You know how to set up, and you don't make the mistake on the way because it's easy to remember. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with London. I myself enjoy very much, but I consider it as the online opening.
Yes, and here is a very interesting move order. So we have seen many times that in Catalan there are two ideas for black. Either you try to not, either you take on c4 or you do not take, and these are two completely different strategies. So so here black decides to take. We have this queen a4 trying to win the pawn, and here bishop b4, bishop d2, bishop e7. And now look at the move. It is not that popular as one would say. Bishop c3, pretty original way to put your pieces with the idea, I believe, knight to d2. And putting the bishop like this seems pretty ugly for now, but the pawn on d4 is not blocked, so might actually make a lot of sense. Keti, have you seen this move before?
I have seen the opening, but bishop d2, bishop c3, not to be honest.
All right, let us continue. We have rook b8, very tricky one with the idea to play b5. So white plays knight e5, bishop takes e5, d takes e5. Now we continue with knight d5. Seems like it hasn't been played before at all. After bishop c3, there were two moves that were played before in the game. It was short castle and bishop d7. So starting from rook b8, the complete novelty. We have knight e5, bishop takes, pawn takes, knight d5, queen takes. We have this kind of middle game. We go really briefly for this because we have so many games and the time is running. So after this, queen takes d4, bishop takes b7. White goes for this endgame with some kind of advantage according to the computer. And now let's see if white manages to how we
Okay.
say, to
Actually, this is
convert.
very typical Catalan advantage. So you have this pawn structure, pawn chain on the king side. You get your king activated. You can even go up to e4. Then later, but she's going now to the queen side as the a pawn and the c pawn are not very much connected. And the thing is that black's king is very passive, and black's king don't have any access to any of this file. And I have played these positions with black too, and I was like thinking I can hold it. But when white starts to push me on the queen side and then on the king side, I can't hold the position. So white can also push the pawns up to fifth rank, and there is breakthrough on the seventh rank, sixth rank, or white is creating some weakness. So this gives very comfortable play for white and also risk-free play for white, because there's no chance that black can create here any danger for white. It's just a very quiet position where white is the one who tries to break through.
All right, a clear, small, tiny advantage for white. We will see how things go a little bit later. I suggest we move on. We have still two junior boards that we haven't covered.
Yeah, we have to see the game of Esipienko and Xiu. Something very interesting happened there. And we just see the pawn on b2, pawn on f3, how this happened, and White actually has an extra piece.
Wow, let us take a look what was here played. Oh no, it was a Pirk defense. This is not considered as a stable opening at such a high level, and especially against Yesipenko, I bet he shouldn't have any trouble to guarantee himself an advantage here. G4.
Mhm.
All right, very sharp direction with G5. I say principal, very principal way to react on it. Knight G3, position is so sharp. And here, apparently, after E4, White gets an advantage. We will see how things continue now that we have so many things in action. Oh my god, this is so complicated. Look at this D5 move now. Bishop C5, King H8, Queen G4, Rook C8, Bishop E6, Rook C7, Bishop G5. This looks like Black is getting dominated everywhere. Seems like a very big advantage for White. Now let's try to see why. This is the position we have right now on the board. White is having such a big advantage. I think I know
Yeah.
why. White is an
I
extra
know what
piece.
you're gonna say, Dina.
White is an extra piece.
White has an extra piece, but the bishop on g7 is a pure tragedy for Black.
Yeah.
It's just so bad piece, and I know you're so sensitive to bad pieces.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. Here, I would say it's two factors. It's material advantage, extra piece, and it is also strategical advantage. I kind of say that there must be a result here soon. I am really wondering to know when was the moment that Black sacrificed the piece, and looks like it was. Am I? Oh my boy. This was actually such a long time ago, Keti. It was move number 10 that Black sacrificed the piece, and I bet we didn't pay enough attention to this, but 94 was a piece sack.
Yeah, but well done, Andrei Sipenko. Also, this g5 move, it's just so dangerous. Like, if Black is not complicated position, if Black goes knight backwards, then h4, h5 comes, and we know what happens when the pawn is at that much advance. And Black was just trying to do the best to complicate the position, right? China is in must-win situation, so for them, they are looking for complication.
Yeah, that also makes sense by as the opening choice. And here I have to admit, in the defense of the Chinese player, we have here more or less equality, compensation. And the mistake was after this e4 move that I would say White managed to blockade the pawns after this move on the dark squares, and this is what granted the advantage for Andrei, and he managed to convert it. There was so much tactic here, and it really requires very proper, very high level of calculation, but this is not a problem for Andrei. And yes, he managed to have this position now with this last move, bishop rook a3. There was gonna be a double pin, I bet.
Yeah, he can go somewhere safe where it's no check, and White is going to win one of the rook. Will be also trade, yeah, to exchange, but this is an extra rook already, Dina.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a win. Let us quickly jump to the women junior board. This is the last game we haven't seen. What is happening here so far?
The last time I got my eyes on this game, Black has very strong pawn on c file, but seems like the pawn is gone, and here we have, I think Black is just dominating.
Yeah, we have an opposite bishop's kind of position, and the material is equal, but Black does have a pass pawn. This a4 pass pawn could actually, yeah, it is actually the reason why Black is having an advantage. Also, the rook on d2. Keti, you know me now so well, and I have so much joy every time I see the rook entering to either the second or the seventh rank.
Yes. That is true. That is true. Some people even say that's a half pawn that counts, but I think this rook now is more than a half pawn. Look at the weakness on g2. We might say something like queen g6. At some point, king is so exposed, and there's an opposite color bishop, so that means that once the king is more weakened and black starts to attack the king side, that's going to be very hard for white to hold the position.
Yeah, that is correct. Let us see very, very quickly what happened in this game. We had this kind of
yeah, Queen's Gambit started. Queen's Gambit once again. That's Tarash line when black goes with c5 immediately. And we have the oh wow, bishop e5, bishop a4, bishop c6.
That is interesting. So white kept his bishop in order to wait until the knight comes and then to trade it. But I say position is open and the black has two bishops, so it is a clear advantage. And here, oh no, the c5 move, and after knight takes d5. Wow, this was a blunder. This was a blunder. Apparently, this was a blunder. Oh, okay. We continue, we move on. We do not have much time. The game continued with this c5 pawn. Oh, sorry, c4 pawn. Keti, you were talking about it. It came to c3. And then we had, well, okay, we had some inaccuracies. Let us move on. Just very quickly see what happened here. White doesn't have much time, so we might see changes so in the game very rapidly. Here we have it. Keti, this is the final position. And
okay, white is also trying the white's also trying its best, but the bishop on it, light square bishop guards f7 really well. Okay.
Everything was, oh, that was such a big advantage for white here, but after rook f8,
can we play bishop e5? That's a funny move.
Bishop e5.
The idea is to sacrifice the queen on e6 and then to do this windmine.
I think we have to look at this position here. There was -3 apparently for white. Simply have to check and king moves somewhere, and rook d2. In fact, there was no attack from white.
Even rook d1 makes sense, Dina.
Even rook d1. Yeah. Rook d1 doesn't work for some reason now that I have my helper near me, but it is rook d2 apparently, and this is the only move. Yeah, just believe me. And here, black got a little bit worried and played rook f8 prophylactics, but giving a little bit away all the advantage. Here we have this sequence. Wow, Keti, this is a roller coaster. Look at this position here. Don't tell me black blundered a pawn, because after a3 there is a simple check double attack.
That's a very, very important pawn. Black could save that pawn very easily with bishop e3 and still keep it go. Right now, still, this is not done yet. After bishop f1, which makes sense to attack g2 pawn, there's bishop f2, which saves the position for now. And the bishop is also hanging on f1, so very likely white will put the pieces together and will try to defense, but I don't believe that there will be anything more than a draw.
That is a logical result, but you know what? This is actually okay for Team Rush, even if it's a junior board. It's the board where they're supposed to dominate, because if we jump quickly to the first board, we already have the result. Apparently, Daniel Dumov won his game against Dean Liran, and the last time we left them was somewhere
that's
here.
That's a big result, Dina. That's a big result. It's not easy to win against Dean Liran, because he's one of the most stable chess player and not loses much of the game.
That is correct. And now I show you very quickly the moves that we have in the game. Everything seemed to be okay so far, and we need to spot the moment where things went wrong for Dean. And where was that? Oh, seems like this c4 gives d4 square. Starting from that moment, white gained an advantage. How interesting.
Yeah, another two results, Dina. I will surprise you, not surprise you, just make you happy. Esipienko managed to convert the big advantage and as well as Kostyniuk. So far this is 3-0, and basically there is no chance for China to even to get themselves into the tie breaks, because they lost the first match, and the second match they can do maximum draw,
Wow,
tie
this
the
is
match.
fascinating.
Yeah, which
This
is not enough for them.
Amazing score by Russia. We can already congratulate Team Russia, but let's not forget about other players who are still playing. We have Alexander Grashkin and Ho Yifan. I suggest we see how this game ends and then jump into analysis of all those games we have missed. Keti, look what is happening here. Ho Yifan is about to win her game.
Yeah, the plan here, Dina, can be to get this king on the king side and then to try to enter. Well, if this sounds too much, black can also push here c5, just trade that bishop pawn, and then to attack f pawn, get a pawn, and bishop endgame with 2 extra pawns is just winning.
That is true. And after a single repetition, sacrifice of the pawn, and now both pawns fall. This is a very big upset for Alexandra Garashkina, who I believe really wants to prove how you find that she is not gonna be #1 rated active player for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, something went wrong here for Goryachkina, and we just witnessed a very good technique of Ho Yifan. This to give up that strong pawn, which is already on a2, it's not easy decision. But this with 2 extra pawns, bishop in the game is clearly winning. And the technique can be just to get this f5 pawn and then to push this pawn, and then at some point white will be forced to give up the bishop, and black has additionally second pawn on c6. I don't believe that Ho Yifan will push this pawn unless she has to. I think she will keep this pawn as far as possible, and she will simply push f5 pawn and will try to win.
Yeah, that is correct. Makes a lot of sense. Oh, yeah, that is the last game we have in this match so far.
Yeah, we have some comments here, but there's reason that Ho Yifan has her technique. Her technique is amazing. Her technique is amazing. And no matter how many years she will not play, she will still have a technique. So
yeah, that is true. If there is something that you might let's say lose in terms of like a form or shape, yeah, you're as an athlete, it might be tactic, it might be some speed, practical skills, yeah, but not when it comes to end game technique.
Yeah, you might lose this. You might need some time to catch up with the openings, some novelties. You might be a bit low in tactical skills than your opponent, and you might be a bit low with the processing, but the technique will stay there forever.
Yeah, that is correct. And now we will simply see how you find when convert your game. It is also a very interesting position if you want to learn how to convert in the same called bishop endgames when you have extra pawns.
Yeah, look at this, what she does. Like, she brings the king on g2. Now f3, f2, f1 is impossible to avoid. King from g2 also helps the pawn to be pushed on f1, and bishop and the pawn on c6 and the bishop d5 simply just it's not moving. It's just like there, and it's kind of teamwork of all these 4 pieces of black.
Yes, that is correct. And it seems like we already have the result here in the game. Alexander Garashkin resigned. So far, let us see what is the score in this match.
The score in this match is 4-2. We do have two draws. That's Artemiev against Yuvangi and Garifila
Garifulina, Leia.
Leia against King Ning Caillou. They made a draw, and also Hoyofan managed to win. Rest boards, Kostyuk Gasipenko and Daniel Dubov pushed the team into the finals. It's already the finals, right?
So here we are, officially announcing that Russia has won their match against China in the semifinals, and Russia advances to the finals, which will take place tomorrow. We do not yet know the time because it will depend on the outcome of the other match, which is between United States of America and India. It will depend on which team will advance because it will depend on the time zone and the timing, which will be better suited for the players. But so far, seems like here we are, Keti. We have a first finalist of the Online Olympiad 2021.
Yes, and congratulations, Dina, to the victory of Russian team. They managed to beat one of the strongest chess team, and they are dominating lately in many fields, team competitions, individuals, and they have world champions in their team. But Russia managed to win with the strongest lineup we could ever imagine. Congratulations to you, Dina, and also to all the chess players and the chess fans who were supporting Team Russia. And we're gonna have more excitements later today, USA against India. Another very interesting match for the semifinals. Let's take a look now at the schedule.
Indeed, we will have India versus United States of America next matchup for the day, which will start soon. And yeah, Keti, that is going to be yet another interesting matchup. Let us now take a look at the bracket. We see already Russia in the final, and she will be facing either India or United States of America. Me, myself, I can say that India is a clear favorite by the lineup of the players, also by rating. United States of America will have a hard time, but they will try their best. And it's also rapid games that sometimes can be decided in blitz as well. So there is also that point of luck in a way that can sometimes decide everything in chess. And yeah, we are going to leave you, our dear viewers, for now. The next commentary team will be Grandmaster Robert Haas and woman Grandmaster Jennifer Shahade, and that was a very big pleasure for me. I think we can still have some time to take the analysis before we still have some time. I see, Keti, was there some games that you found personally interesting?
There were so many good games, to be honest, Dina, and quite impressive how all the players played. I think the latest one of Hoyofan was very interesting, and it was also a very important match for not only teams but also between these two ladies. One is the former best strongest female chess player, and one is the active strongest chess player. And there was also a very important fight here and the battle, and itself the position was quite interesting, right?
Indeed, and we have missed a lot of this, so this is a very good idea to go and have a look what happened this game. The last time we saw this position was here, and you suggested, yeah, Keti, you were wondering why Rook E1 was. What was the idea of Alexander Rook E1? I think she will explain us here after some moves. We have knight f6, bishop f5, rook takes e1, rook takes e1, bishop d5, and seems like, yes, as I said already before, it is simply to put a piece on a normal square. We have knight e5, rook d8, b4. Once again, we do already see that white is having a very weak pawn structure. And could that be so that this pawn structure was the reason why white lost eventually this game?
Yeah. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it was when you have this pawn structure, double pawns on F file that also weakens D4 pawn, you need to have dynamic position. If you get into the end game, those pawns are just simply the weakness. And seems like how you find and just outplayed that end game. If we have some time, Dina, there is a suggestion that one of the best game in this match was Dubov versus Dingley in the second game.
Yeah, seems like indeed Hoifan did outplay Garachkina step by step here at trading the queens. And let us see how it all went for Dingley Ren. So we left this position over here and we said that apparently c4 was the mistake because it gave white the access to these squares. We have now d4 and knight jumps to d4, and yet here we go knight e5, bishop f4, rook fc8, and seems like after rook fc8 the evaluation bar gets completely crazy because after e4 pawn break white gets a very big advantage, and it was spotted by Daniel Dubov.
Yeah, beautifully played, beautifully played. And well, yeah, I just wonder who do you support from our chat to Team India or Team USA. You guys can spot that. You can just make some noises in the chat too, just to let us know how many supporters those team have in here. And yeah, that's very important match for this tournament. And soon, today, in few hours, we will know the second finalist, and that will be facing Russia in the final.
Yes, that is correct. All right, Keti. I believe it is our time to say goodbye for now. We have been here yet again commentating on the match for Russia and China. Once again, Keti, that was a very big pleasure for me to be here with you. As always, let us remind the time that we have for the start of the next match: India versus United States of America. And
that's gonna start actually very few minutes. We're gonna have new team joining very soon. The show is not ended. We just have to leave. It was a lovely journey. I think it was more than 1 month this whole tournament, which was incredible, and I had so much joy to see teams coming from first stage, second stage, and then to top stage. And now we had all this starts, and somehow Dina, Olympiad is amazing game. You have these top players and elite chess players, and you also have those players who never heard of, and you're just learning those new people and just discovering new names. And yeah, it was a beautiful journey, and this is not the end yet. Soon we're gonna know the winner of the online Olympiad 2021. Looking forward for that, and gonna stay with you guys too. Thank you everyone for in the chat for being so supportive and so active. Thank you, Dina, for very good company. And yeah, we'll be also observing the rest of the actions, because this is not the end.
I will just remind our viewers that the next match will not start immediately, unlike the previous ones. We will once again we'll remind you once again the time. It is 3:30 Universal Time, so stay tuned, do not go anywhere. It is gonna be in a few hours, and you will find out who is gonna be the team. As far as for now, once again, let us say goodbye and see you soon.
Bye.